Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Experience. And today I'm really excited to introduce to you to the show, Gina Piro. And welcome to the show, Gina. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to just start with Gina has done so many wonderful things in her life. And sometimes it's best to just have the people on the show explain what they do. And I love hearing you talk about what you do. So go ahead and share that.
Okay.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is a delight. And I love that you call it the experience. So my name is Gina Piro, and I could sit here for a while because my soul is really here to experience a lot of things in this lifetime. So let me just, what I'm doing present, who am I being just present day? I am the CEO and founder of the Pirouettes, and the Pirouettes are a community of dance lovers, dancers, dance teachers, dance coaches, people who are here to use dance as a way to express themselves, embrace who they are, and contribute back to the planet by being a source of light energy through the art of dance. So I'm a
So cool. So good.
and through that, I'm a transformational speaker and I'm a life coach. I have my master's through the ICF. At present day, I am really here to be leading the pirouettes.
That's awesome. So I'm a person that loves movement, loves dance, but you come from a much more organized dance background. You were in the Rockettes, and that is, I'm
Yes.
sure everybody likes to shout that from the rooftops, but it's just such a cool experience. So few people get a chance to do that. And so from the lens of like what it takes to become a Rockette, I would imagine tons of focused practice, and then how that plays out in your life. I mean, does discipline affect a person and how they go about their life? I'm just curious about that whole sort of thing.
It started so long ago, age 4, starting to dance. And I like the word you used, organized, because it was organized training. It was every week, ballet, jazz, tap, ballet, jazz, tap. And it was very disciplined. Like my childhood was training in the dance classroom. And then I went to school, like I have my BFA from the university at Buffalo. So I continued my dance education and development of artistry. And then you don't know where life takes you after that, unless you have a very specific goal as a dancer. I didn't. I'm a little bit more open to possibilities, go with the flow, synchronicity. So I kind of rolled with it and ended up becoming a Radio City Rockette just through divine timing, meeting people and having the courage to show up doing it. But it's funny you brought the Rockettes up because my second season with the Rockettes, I got hit backstage and I received a brain and spinal injury, which actually knocked me from unconscious living into conscious living.
Wow, like a spiritual transformative experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like
Wow.
the night before I was asking, God, universe, show me my purpose. I know this isn't it. And I even feel bad saying that, but I'm grateful. However, something inside of me, now I know what it's called. It's my soul essence, was just almost crying for something more, like just something more. Who knows what the more was? And when I asked for it the next day, I mean, I was knocked out and
How did
didn't
you get knocked
realize
out?
there was we have a backstage area before we enter through the back curtain. This was back in 2009. So now the show is different. But there was so people practice, and one of the team members like jumped up like this, and I was walking to my position and ended up like undercutting me, neck snapped back,
Wow.
unconscious,
Oh my
fall to the
gosh.
floor. Of course, with lipstick, lashes, and a fierce outfit on, like of course. So
So looking
It,
good, but out cold.
yeah, out cold. And the pivot for me then, and pivot is such a funny word right now during this experience of on this planet. Because
I love
dance,
that word though. It's so
I
apropos in so many realms. I'm sure it's a pivot for you or a
yeah,
pirouette, whatever.
yeah, and a pivot is a dance step. You know, you
Yeah,
learn
right.
pivot step. You know,
Yeah.
pivot step. It's part of the training. So I didn't realize how unconscious I was living until I recognized what consciousness was. And so that this really just catapulted me into what I was asking for, right? They say be careful what you ask for. Well, I mean, who would have thought asking for purpose, meant, well, this is the next step for you to discover purpose.
So let's drop into that a little bit more so you know what it's like to have a brain injury and a spinal injury is not easy. So when you say, like, you can tell that you've done so much healing around it, that it's something that you moved beyond, but at the time, I'd imagine that it was really intense. What was that like
Yes.
for you?
Confusing. And I was living Operation Fear. Like, if I don't get myself back in the line, what do I do? How do I get paid? Who's going to hire me? What if people, like, on the outside, I look normal, but on the inside, nobody can see this turbulence. And so I look fine on the outside, but on the inside, I'm crumbling and I'm failing and I'm experiencing all of these emotions and symptoms and headaches and sensitivities to light and sound and noise and people. And I can't get through 10 minutes of exercise. And how dare I ever even, I don't want to, say that I can't do that. I'm a rockette. I'm supposed to be, strong. So all this stuff came up and it was turbulent
Yeah, you
and it
couldn't do
was
what you had been trained your whole life to do.
no.
You had
And
to
the thing is,
rest.
rest, recover. If I had a sensitivity, like a headache, or they would tell me if your emotion changes, you're you that's a symptom. You need to sit down. Where in dance, if you had a headache or a sensitivity or an emotion change, it's like, push. What are you doing? Get up, do it
Yeah.
again. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Focus somewhere else. Focus
so
on the step, on the job, on the work, on the movement. That,
mhm,
what's really interesting about that, and I want to, go back to it, but what it reminds me of is in my work, helping people to get in touch with their emotional expression and pay
mhm,
attention inside the body. And how interesting when you're a dancer, I mean, you do have to also listen to your body, but it's interesting to, I'd imagine that it's a different refinement, because dancers must be, by virtue of that physicality, so sensitive in the body, but then to also sacrifice to such a degree, like push certain things away. There's probably got to be a really strong like mental component, I'd imagine too.
yeah.
So getting harmony with this shift, how did that happen?
It started with I was standing in the mirror. This was really the moment I love this moment in my life because it taught me everything of who I was to everything I am today, which is what you're talking about. And thank you for doing the work you're doing on this planet, because similarly, it's what I'm passionate about is how do we listen to our body in every moment of the day, like that this is my boss lady, right? Like, so I was looking in the mirror and I wasn't able to go into work if I had a headache. So I was looking in the mirror, making myself think, talk about mindset, that I didn't have a headache. So I'm looking in the mirror and I'm going, I don't have a headache. I don't have a headache. I'm totally fine. I'm totally healthy. You do not have a headache, Gina. Get yourself to work. Like, you can do this. And I'm literally in the mirror doing this affirmation that doesn't even make sense. And yet my phone rings. And at the time, I was working with this beautiful constitutional homeopath who never calls me. And all she said was, do you have a headache? And I said, yes, because I knew she would know I was lying. And she says, great. Then you call into work and let them know you're not going to be there. And
chills. I have chills. That's so beautiful. Wow. That had to have been a trip for you.
a trip.
Yeah.
And she says, I just had this feeling to call you. And you and I know a lot about that, right? And I called into work, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
I'm
Like,
sure.
I have a headache. I'm not going into work. As a dancer, you have a headache. You're not going in. This is how am I going to show up?
It's career suicide, right? Like, there's so
Yeah.
many people who would be happy to take your place and to fight through a headache. So much judgment, I'd imagine.
I mean, I
Much.
fell to the floor in agony and pain and tears of it. I had never done that before.
Yeah, the show must go on.
Yeah. The show must go on. It's really, it's so wonderful to talk about it. And thank you for hearing the healing I've done, because I'm healed, but it definitely, that moment was the step I needed to take to begin honoring a symptom or a headache or a sensitivity. I mean, even that word made me cringe inside. Like, oh, if you have a sensitivity to light or sound, you can't go in. And I mean, this is from the doctor. I had this thing on the fridge, and I was like, okay, this is like, is this real? And then another golden nugget was, I went into work and I was practicing my 10 minutes to 15 minutes, building up my body to have no sensitivity. And I'm just hustling and working and, going into all of these old patterns of push. And one of my friends like yanked me, backstage and said, this is your effing brain that functions your entire body. Is it worth it?
Wow.
Another God moment,
Yeah.
another conscious moment that brought awareness into my life. Like, I could hear you, conscious. I can receive you, conscious. Okay, you're my second golden nugget. And then I really started to take it a little bit deeper and start
How did you
asking deep.
respond to that? I mean, that is I mean, for anyone to be pulled aside by a beloved friend who is probably, I'm assuming, also a dancer.
She might have been a dancer, but she was actually one of our staff members, like one of our dressers.
So somebody who knew you, knows the business, and knows how cutthroat it is, just like, it does feel so spiritually governed or directed, right? Like, this is needing, these are key moments. These are pivotal moments in a person's life. And so when you receive that from her, were you like triangulating to what you had gotten from the was it the homeopath?
Mm-hmm.
And then her, and you're like, okay, the second one. And so what happened in your, like, what did you notice in that moment?
Something shifted. It was almost as if I woke up and I'm like, you're right. Like, oh my gosh, this is important. And from then there, I stuck to every sensitivity and every moment. And I never actually was able to dance in the show again that season because I was still on my 10 minutes. If I had a symptom, I had to start over. And I never made it fully into my show to be able to do it without a symptom.
Wow.
And so I started developing this connection to my body and this connection to my heart and my soul and this connection to this wiring in my brain. And I just started going, this is why I'm here and I'm supposed to be teaching others. But this feeling of honoring my body is freedom. Like it's just total freedom.
I love it. You know, one of the reasons I really wanted you to be on the show is because when I met you, we had an opportunity to meet at a conference, and just watching you be in communication with your body in the moment. I've seen a lot of people be connected with themselves, but there was something really deeper going on that I think you have deepened into. It's a refinement that I think is really beautiful and important for people to start. I mean, I feel like it's next step for a lot of people. And just hearing how you, I don't want to say surrender, but just went there. It's like that shift happened, and then here you are saying, something shifted, and I went. And just to see you in action, you are someone that honors emphatically what's showing up for you. And it's beautiful. It feels so honoring of who you are. And it's I'll say unapologetic. It is unapologetic, but it's such an ownership that no apology is needed. And I think we're at a kind of a pivotal moment in our world where people who are having this spiritual awakening, there's spiritually transformative experiences happening for a lot of people. People are having near-death experiences, which your experience could potentially have been an NDE of sorts too. But these spiritually transformative experiences are changing people. And so to have a guide like you to demonstrate what that looks like is really important for the time that we're in, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So how did you do that? How did you start listening on the level? Because you're talking about a deep level. You're like you're genuine. You said this earlier about tuning into your being, into your body, into what's happening in every moment. So that requires a level of presence that is deep presence.
Deep presence. Yeah.
So did you have to change things? Was there a process, or did it just start right away? Just so curious about how that happened for you.
There was a process because they gave me the process, and I'm good at following direction. So it was like 10 minutes of exercise. If you have a symptom, you need to start over at the 10 minutes. If you pass 10 minutes, you can move on to 15 minutes of exercise. If you can get through 15 minutes of exercise without a symptom, you've passed. Now you can move up to 25 minutes.
So this is from the doctors. The doctors were saying, here, this is the protocol to follow. And then, so when you notice a symptom, so a symptom could be a headache. It could be feeling woozy, I'd imagine.
Yep. An emotional change.
Yeah, an emotional change. That is deep, right? That's the depth that I'm talking about. So
the depth.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Just all of it, like a sensitivity, your eyes dilate, sound is bugging you. I mean, it really was, I would say, anything that created a shift in your body, like any message your body was giving you that was like a ping, start over.
So that in a way, that's a meditative practice in its own. Right. And
Yep.
and to like, I think about how much information is coming into our awareness, how much could be a potential ping. Like, did you feel overwhelmed at first?
I wasn't watching TV. I wasn't on my phone. I was sleeping in the dark.
Mhm.
I had two of my very, good girlfriends on tour with me. So they were able to check in on me. One of my best friends, her husband had gone through a brain injury. So she knew the symptoms. So she was kind of watching me like, gee, like you might think that you're focused, but like you're not,
Wow.
because the thing is you think you're okay. I
Hmm.
mean, isn't that funny, right? Like you think you're okay, but you're really not.
Hmm. It's
And so I
gotta be
started,
wild.
it's wild because I could think myself out of pain for so many years. That's how strong the mind is. That's how strong mental strength is used in a way to self abuse your body. That was my life. And championed for it, by the
Hmm.
way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it, and acknowledged for it. Wow, I acknowledge you for pushing through that. Or,
Yeah.
wow, like you're such a brave heart because you moved through that ankle sprain. So
You danced
here
on that ankle sprain. Yeah, like
yeah,
think of Olympians and
yeah,
the applause and the adoration.
yeah. So therefore, now I have a belief system. When I push through pain, I'm seen, I'm loved, I'm accomplished, I'm championed. So this is just another moment for me to be the brave heart soul in the Rockette line. Like, yeah, Gina got knocked out and there she is 4 days later back in the game.
Yeah, wow. That's so punk rock, isn't it?
It is. It's like, wow. And so I shifted that. And it's my body of work now that
Your
we
body of work,
my
truly.
body of truth,
Yeah.
because it took me, honestly, Nora, it took me 10 years to
Wow.
fully recover.
Wow.
And through that recovery period, obviously healing other belief systems and wiring that was created from learning and habits and past lifetimes.
Sure.
And then to be where I am today, in every moment I am listening. I mean, it shows up with food. It shows up with taking trips. I will change my flight if I'm getting this sense that I'm supposed to be going later. I will actually call and reschedule talks, clients. If I'm supposed to be somewhere and I'm getting that there is some sort of intuitive sensation that's saying, do it later, I'm doing these things that are inspiring. It's just the road less traveled. Let's face it. Like I'm rescheduling a client because I'm getting this really strong intuition that says we're supposed to reschedule. Yes, I am because I'm so, let's see, I'm so in awe of the body's ability to be so wise.
Yeah, to
Like
know everything. The
just,
body is such an access point to all of our knowing.
yes.
And so, do you notice when I think this is a really key point to kind of open into. Um, so, when you do listen on that level and say you've moved your session with someone to a different time, do you notice what do you notice when that happens for you? Is do you have synchronicities or signs or validations that yes, indeed, that was the right choice? Or
Almost every time there is some sort of synchronicity or divine moment that needed to take place during that, say, 45-minute
wow.
timeline for all parties, highest and best, because that's what I'm asking for. Allow me to be a vessel of listening for all parties included.
Mm,
So whether I have a session with a person or whether I have uh, to fly somewhere to speak, I just say, grant me the deep listening and the presence to tune in to all parties included, because most likely I'm ahead of it for the other person because it's my gift.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, and you'll hear things like clients will say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really needed this time for something else. Or, wow, Gina, I'm so inspired that you're listening so deeply to your body that you're honoring something, this vessel. And I really needed to hear that. Thank you, you know, and for it to be received.
Yeah.
Because we're
Yeah.
moving through, I mean, belief systems on this planet of honoring your body when you have a scheduled appointment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see it in myself. I mean, today I had to, I have like a piece of cat fur like blowing in my nose. But today I had to do something that was really uncomfortable. A potential client called and wanted to have a session, and I was on the road. I pulled over. I couldn't really hear very well, and there wasn't a great feeling. And I've been moving my practice to work more with women,
Yeah.
and this was a man, and it felt, I was trying to get to my appointment, and so I was having a hard time hearing him, which I think is a sign sort of in retrospect. And even in the moment, I was like noticing these moments of like, okay, this doesn't seem to be lining up. I don't, what he's saying I'm not hearing it well. And so I was just going through what I sort of say to people to talk about my services. And then there was it was just languaging that felt really not resonant. I'll just put it that way. It wasn't resonant for me. It was, I feel like, kind of not cool for therapeutic conversation. It just gave me a little window of like, And so I went ahead and scheduled the session, but everything in my body was like, Nora,
No.
you had already decided, Nora, that you weren't going to work with people who do this to your body, when the messaging comes through like this, it's as loud and clear as you need it to be. So I went to my appointment, and then afterward, and it was a haircut, and I talked to her, and I was like, I know better. So I actually contacted him and found a referral, but there was guilt. I'm dealing with guilt right now. And there's the part of me that's like, I want to help everybody, but I know that it's a part of my evolution to, I don't have to work with, and I know logically, but my heart was like, why didn't you just do it then? And so that's the place that I'm at right now, which I'd imagine that you get very well, is the sort of like when it drops in, and then listening, and then conveying it right in that authentic moment.
Yes.
That's fantastic to do that. And I'm
Mhm.
good at it most of the time, but today was a deepening into that. Like,
Yep.
look where you can go with this.
Mm.
I'm
It is.
really glad. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. Good job. You did it.
Yes.
It was out of sync with your alignment, but you did it anyway. And that's all I need to do to learn. I just need to learn that moment.
You did it though.
I did. And with love. I do it with love. I mean, I think that's the interesting thing too. And so when a client works one-on-one with you,
Mm-hmm.
what's that like?
Oh my gosh, we have a blast. The first word that comes, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so fun. Like, yeah, it's so fun because they're leading. Clients lead me. They're really the hero. I'm just the teacher, but they're the hero. I'm just in awe of their heroism, like showing up and wanting to learn about themselves.
Yeah.
That self-knowing, that powerful self-knowing, because that's really where I start with all my clients, is self-knowing. And I have a workbook, and it's fun to fill out. And there's a little bit of coaching, a little bit of teaching, a little bit of guiding. And, it's fun because when we learn about ourselves, it is fun. If we're not having fun, it's because we're trying to be somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're starting from the sort of, it sounds like at the point where people are discovering that they may not really know themselves, and that's the initial sort of step into the work, is getting to know themselves on a deeper level.
Yeah.
I love that.
Self-education.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny because I do notice that when I'll ask people, because you can hear when they don't know themselves very well. You can hear it, and I'll ask, so tell me, who is so and so? Tell me about
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And they'll just go, I don't know.
Yeah.
And how beautiful to start to work with someone who can guide them towards knowing. It's not hard, but
Mm-mm.
there is somehow this perception that they're unknowable.
Yeah. It's like a subject, math, they know math. And I work a lot with
Right.
teenagers. So, subjects.
Yeah.
And, we are subjects. And I don't love that word, like we are subjects, but I use it as a metaphor. Like you're studying math, you're studying science, you're studying history. Are you studying self?
So good.
For
So
me,
expansive.
yeah, it's like, we don't know self. We haven't studied self. We've been studying subjects. So imagine if you walked into kindergarten and you had self 101. Well, now you're 14 and you'd be coming to me going, can you tutor me in self? I kind of know self, but I have these problems that I'm getting wrong on my test, right? It's cool. Let's explore that. But really, I never had a self subject growing up. And,
Oh gosh, no. How
so
old were you when you was it that time period that you, after the brain injury, that you started to study self? Or do you feel like, I'm just curious.
when did I start studying self? Oh, I know. I was always very spiritually connected. I came into this lifetime, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I definitely know spiritually connected, almost like I'm in working for God, which is kind of interesting because that's like my whole childhood. I was always working for God in some sort of capacity, whether it was being kind to someone or helping someone or uh, just something along those lines. And then at 12 years old,
Beautiful.
I was diagnosed with scoliosis. I had an S curve. So in order for me to heal it, I had to self-study. Like I
What
had
age
to.
was this again?
12, age 12.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
I started self-studying, meaning studying alignment, body posture, self-awareness, right shoulders higher. Okay, I have pain in this side of my body. So just a lot of more mechanical self-studying, not
Mhm.
so much like feelings and purpose and skills, but just physical
Still
self-study.
tuning in though.
Tuning
It's a
in.
tuning in, and that's a subtle skill that
Yes,
takes exercise.
absolutely. So that's when I started my journey. And then I started diving a little bit deeper into self and then working with a homeopath. Um, I had like a rash happening on my skin and no one could tell me what it was. And, 3 times I heard her name. And of course, there was the sign. And then she really helping me go deeper
Oh
into
wow.
into self exploration and more of the healing, I would say, like healing all the belief systems or moving through them and understanding my childhood and a lot of childhood stuff that I was aware of, just didn't know there was another way to move.
Hmm. Yeah. To
That-
interpret it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, to
Yeah.
perceive it, to interpret it, that there was even a way to feel happy about it. Like,
Wow. Yeah. I see that a lot with my
yeah,
clients, and it makes sense. That's like the reality that you know.
yeah,
But I think it's really significant that you have an awareness about your connection with the divine, with God. And, you know, what comes up for me around that is I feel that way too. I feel that I was visited when I was about 5, by a guide that was just a light being. And I think it was it was an important, I guess, moment in my life to just remind me, okay, this realm is here and we're connected to you and we're watching you and it's a good thing. We're here and we love you and, keep it up. Just, we're in the world with you. And I'm wondering too, how did you know that you were connected to God in that way that you're describing?
How did I know I was connected? Well, there was some sort of structure that led me. I grew up Catholic.
Uh-huh.
And so there was a structure. There was, prayers you can say for everything you're going through. There was church on Sundays. I went to a Catholic grade school, so then every day there was that practice of prayer and devotion and forgiveness and whatnot. So there was this training.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then
Well, let me
I
ask
would.
you this. Let me interrupt, and I'm sorry. I'm sort of kind of sweeping into the deeper feeling of it. So when you were a kid in the structure of the Catholic Church
Mhm.
and connecting to divine, did you know that's what you were doing? Were you consciously aware that you, like, in this structure of prayer and devotion, were you feeling it?
I felt it when I danced.
Ah.
So not
Mhm.
so much like when I was in these structures of, my Catholic school, but
Mhm.
when I danced, I felt something like an energy that was so much bigger than me that people would say, "You have such a presence on stage," or something would take me over. I would be like, "I don't know what just happened." That was just so powerful, and presence. And now I know it was divine presence, but this was my gift of divine
Beautiful.
presence. And then, of course, developing it. My grandma was really intuitive. So I would watch her hear things and say things that I didn't see. And then people would ask me for advice, and I would be able to articulate, and they would not understand how I was so young and I just knew what to say. So I was
Mm,
started developing and then cut it off, teenage years. You want to be
mm,
liked by your friends, and then being a little bit kind of made fun of for my spirit connection, and then got older and only would tell one friend. And then some people would see this connection in me, and I'm just like, okay, I don't want anybody else to know. And then I kept kind of cutting it off,
mhm,
and then moving through belief systems with Catholicism. I was like, whoa, okay, like I have to move through some of those BS systems,
mhm,
and which I did, and I was grateful, and then still playing with energy, and then still finding um, moments where I was hiding it.
mm. Well, and so interesting is the common thread throughout is you're dancing, right? You're
Yes.
constantly dancing and you felt the divine flow.
Yes.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so elegant, right? Like the way that shows up just feels like perfection.
Yeah. And then that was it. Like every time I was down, for me it was dance. But I still didn't understand like that was my divine presence. Like that was my quickest connection
Mm.
to source energy. Like this is the portal. Like
Like your
what?
taproot, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally. Like,
Yeah.
wait, this is it. And then I don't know if it was 5 or 6 years ago, I called one of my mentors and I said, I finally understand something. And she said, well, welcome aboard.
Wow.
And it
Wow.
was so cool. And, now when I'm speaking or I can connect, not just once, it is one of my portals, but I can connect just in everyday life. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to connect in the car or speaking, or I just wanted to always be a channel, because for me, it just felt aligned. Like it just felt so like good. It was dopamine hit, but it wasn't dopamine. So I had to even go through that confusion. Like what is connection to source energy, and what is dopamine, and what is addiction, and what is like, because then I was addicted to dance for a period of time. And then because I didn't understand that it was really my soul connection.
So for people who don't understand, because I do think that you have such it's like a processed understanding of what had happened in the past, but I would bet that people watching are in the midst of parceling out these refinements that you've sort of been, that you're on the other side of. And so when you say that you became addicted to dance, how does that show up in a person's life?
You are hoping it's going to fix the feeling that you are having, and it's not. So you go and you dance and you come back and you feel good for a minute, but then you feel in the same sort of stuckness or like sensory in your body. And so you go and you do it again. And like when you're showing up, you're not showing up grateful, you're showing up hoping it will fix you.
So it's like going for that hit that's
Yes.
going to make you feel better.
Right.
So go
2
ahead.
a.m. Yeah, no, it's just, thank you for asking the question. No one's ever asked me that question, because it took me so many years to really understand, like, what is this connection I have to dance, and why can't I live without it, or why can I live with it? And what is it? Because it overtakes me, and I see it in different people, right? Like this need to be seen. And I thought for a while, oh, do I have to be seen? Am I not seen? Is this like deep? And do I love dance? Do I love this art? Is it a gift? Is it a treasure? Is it I'm getting paid? Like, what
Is it
is this?
ego? Yeah,
Is it
totally.
ego?
Yeah.
I mean, all these questions. And but when I was, setting my alarm at 2 a.m. and using a studio dance key to go dance it out at 2 a.m. At first I was like, this is so rad. I'm dancing it out. And then it wasn't working. Like I was just trying to escape whatever it was I was escaping at the time.
Yeah. So was
And
this after the injury or before?
before.
So I'd imagine that realizing that, and then this was before the Rockettes even?
Yes.
Yeah. So you had already identified, you had deepened into your relationship or understanding with dance, and then you had the Rockette. So it makes sense that there was this sort of, I don't know, distortion in your relationship with dance a little bit.
Self-distortion, I would say.
Uh-huh.
Like you nailed it. There was this distorted, like, what is this? Like, what am I doing? And it was just a distorted, like, yeah, great word to use.
And then you couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. And then I couldn't do it anymore. And actually a part of me was like, I am
Relieved.
yes. Thank you. Because my body hurts and I am sick of people yelling at me, and I'm like, what am I doing this for? Where is this heading? Where is this going?
So, what I don't know about is, what is the dancing world like? I mean, I tried to get my youngest into dancing, and that never really clicked in, but there are those kids that you see that I'm sure you were like those kids that are just thriving and excelling and just doing amazing. And then they just, and I see it in gymnastics too. And well, you hear about the crazy stuff that's going on in the gymnastics world. Does like evolving into from dancing as a kid into something that's more serious. Tell me about that as a path.
It's a pathway for now. There's like more pathways, there's definitely like clearer pathways on this journey of dance.
Mm.
And there's so many more opportunities and so many more college programs that
Mm.
have different ways to connect to dance and develop your artistry. And so the education of dance has expanded, which is beautiful. There's so much education, but you don't really get it until you're in a college or a conservatory. They're
Mhm.
really sharing with you the depths and the artistry and the history and where it came from and how do you move and where is it coming from and all of that. And then of course, somatics and how do we take care of ourselves? That's also expanded. We have this expansion of this is the way the body works and in alignment and, you know, so that's exciting. Where like I feel our industry can really be helped is younger. Like, how do we train our young dancers to already be in this development? Like I have an emerging artist program. It's basically choreograph your, next steps after high school.
Oh,
And it
cool.
helps juniors and seniors develop their pathway into the next step because that is extremely important for any dancer to develop themselves with the dance, not just develop the dance, develop self within the dance. Because if you just develop dance like anything else, it's really developed, but then what happens to the rest?
Mm. That sounds so beautiful because I think about where I was when I was at that age. I mean, just clueless as to what was next. Clueless. I just thought, okay, I'm just going to go to college, that high school, college. And I
Yeah.
remember at one point my high school advisor was like, I keep hearing this word college and I have not seen a single move in that direction. And I was just sort of like, oh, I'm supposed to do something. And I think about how beautiful, what an amazing opportunity to have somebody who's teaching you how to choreograph your life after high school, because that feels so visceral to me. I'm a very visceral person. And I probably could have danced a whole lot more. I mean, my first experience was when I was 5 and I went and, one of those recitals from like tap and ballet. That was really my only dance class. And I went on stage and saw my parents and then totally did my own dance and then came to at the end, like didn't even had awareness of what I had done. I think I just went all over the place on the stage. And then I came to, and then I looked and they're like, get off the stage. And so I mean, but I get it. It's such an altered state of reality, but using that, it just feels so powerful to me. And I'd imagine like theater people, sorry, I like have hairs.
Cat hair.
Like even, people in the performing arts in general, like working with dancers working with dancers, or actors working with other actors and musicians and stuff. Like what an incredible program that you've created for young people because it's like setting intention.
Yes.
And artistry is so personal, right?
Yep.
Like it's such a
Yep.
personal journey. How cool. Wow. So we're kind of at the top of the hour now. If people want to work with you, Gina, are you taking clients?
I am. I'm taking clients. I'm also enrolling people into my season, I call it. So with the pirouettes, I run it by ages. So there's ages 13 to 16, 17 to 18, 19 to like 21 or so, whether you're in college. But right now it's for dancers. So it's mainly for dancers and dance artists, dance teachers, dancers with scoliosis. I'll be doing this like regular, like a season, and it's everybody gets their self education classes and course. If you're not a dancer, I do take individual clients. Just always, want to chat with them first to see if I am aligned with them and they're aligned for me. And so, yeah.
Listening with that inner listening.
Yeah.
Gotta do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, some people I work, I have clients that are non-dancers, but again, they're attracted to me and it ends up working out. And I just always kind of go, people find me, you get it. You and
Yeah.
I just synchronistically collided, and I love that. That's the magic. Like for me, that lights me up. I'm like, ooh, I just so happened to walk by you, didn't I? That's cool.
That was perfect. And yeah, and I love knowing that you're in the world and that I know you and that you're doing this incredible work because well, I feel like I can see such huge expansion with what you're doing. It feels so like the souls of people who are wanting to work with you in this way feel like I can feel a hunger for that.
Yay.
Yeah. So before we conclude, is there anything that's on your heart that you want to just talk about and share? Because we don't have to have a strict deadline, but I like to sort of keep it around an hour.
Mm-hmm. Um, just this is the only thing on my heart right now, but I heard this, that love is the sharing of consciousness.
Mm.
And I love that it says it's the sharing, so I began that sharing on my journey, I guess, of crisis, injury, whatever we call it. I call it a gift now, or a divine appointment. But
Wow.
just that it is a sharing, so for all of you listening, like, what are you willing to share with yourself today that's from love? Like, what loving words can you share with yourself, or loving kindness, or loving communication, or loving food, or, loving movie, or a loving message, or, a loving walk. But how can you share that love with yourself?
I love
I
that. Yeah.
It opened up a lot for me when I read that. I'm like, oh, this is a sharing. Like, am I
Yeah.
sharing with me, so that's what was on my heart,
It's
to
so
share.
perfect. Yeah, it's so perfect. And
Oh,
what I feel about that too is sharing the vulnerability that we keep from our own awareness. Right.
yeah.
I hear that in what you're saying too. I hear be loving, but it's almost like even deeper. It's like be loving when you need love, to give love to yourself, right? Like
Mhm.
when maybe you're feeling like you're not doing it right, or being judged, those moments, a lot of the people who watch this show are coming into their spiritual awareness and their
Mm,
gifts and sensitivities, and have seen their sensitivities as burdens and
mhm.
curses, and have been told that they're too sensitive, and that
Yeah.
and which is so hilarious because it's like too sensitive. Not possible. We just got to learn how to manage it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So good to have you on the show. And
Thank
so,
you.
yes, thanks for being on the show. And, over time, we'll have to check in and just hear how Pirouettes is doing. And I
Yes.
really can see an expansion. So, and maybe there'll be some other artists playing with you in the future.
Yeah, we're turning the light up. That's what the pirouettes
Yeah.
is. We're turning the light up. So,
Awesome.
hey.
Well, I'd love to visit and say where you are in the world.
So right now I'm currently in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. And Pirouettes, is that in Vegas and California, or
It's all virtual. So I
oh, it's all
have,
virtual.
yep, so I have people from all over, and it's incredible. And we're going international. I don't know. We are, right? Universe. I don't know. I heard
Yes,
that
we
the other
are.
day.
Well,
Like
and
international. I'm like,
maybe there'll be a
okay.
show. Maybe there'll be a pirouette show in the future when things start getting
Yes.
back together.
Yes. 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 And
Awesome.
yes.
Well,
So
and I can speak from personal experience. I've seen Gina on stage, both speaking and dancing, and she is just a bright, shiny star. So if you're looking for someone to speak, definitely think of having Gina speak at your event, but also get in touch with her if what she's saying resonates, because I don't know anyone else in the world that is doing this work, and it's beautiful work. So I'm just so grateful we get a chance to show you off.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. My pleasure. So thanks everyone. And thank you, Gina. And until next time, gonna send you all much love. Mwah.
Ah.
Take good care, y'all. See you next week.